Archives of Prasar Bharati presents the timeless treasure of golden era.
Hello and welcome to Living on the Edge. On our program this week, a fascinating account of how waste is recycled in Calcutta naturally. Haltara, one of the most famous elephants in the world, is getting used to her new owner, and whether sterilization is the answer to the stray dog menace. All that and more this week. But first we turn to Calcutta, where for generations, garbage and sewage have been recycled in one of the most innovative ways. Not only does recycling support hundreds of families, but it's also done without expensive treatment plants. Calcutta city provides a rare success story in urban waste disposal, as this report shows. Rarely does one wonder where all this garbage and sewage water generated is dumped, or what eventually happens to all this waste. The fact is that little is done to it. It just piles up at ever-growing garbage dumps, and sewage water flows into nearby rivers, reducing them to dirty nalas. And Calcutta is no exception. City municipalities have to battle with growing volumes of waste generated. But what most people, even Calcutta's residents, are unaware of is a quiet and efficient waste disposal system at work at the fringe of the city. To understand how it works, Living on the Edge decided to follow one of the main sewage lines to see just where it goes. Our journey begins at this massive garbage dump, which we were told is nearly 100 years old. Every day, hundreds of rag pickers gather here to sort and collect waste. Plastic, metal and paper are carried away to be resold, leaving behind large amounts of decomposing organic waste, which is of little use, one would think. But barely half a kilometer ahead, we came across a huge expanse of vegetable plots. A closer look revealed that garbage from the dump was being used as fertilizer by vegetable farmers, and that sewage water, after being treated by natural bacterial processes, was used to irrigate the fields. In effect, what is happening is that garbage and sewage that are otherwise a bane for urban planners are gradually being recycled at no extra cost. Moreover, these farms supply about 1/3 of the city's requirement of 150 tons of vegetables every day, and just supplying these vegetables supports hundreds of families. But this is not all. Travelling further, our camera team found that the sewage line emptied itself into Calcutta's wetlands. Hardly a suitable destination, you might think, but it is here that over 1/3 of the city's sewage is treated. Over 250 million litres flow in here daily to be neutralized by nature at virtually no cost. Sewage water is being used, believe it or not, to breed fish. It is a system that has developed over generations. Sewage lines coming in from the city systematically crisscross these fish farms. At the mouth of each fishery, several sieves are set up to separate any solid matter that might be present. The rest drains through. Before it finally flows into the breeding ponds, the sewage water is made to pass through large patches of water hyacinth. This seems strange because water hyacinth is a weed which clogs up lakes and ponds, cutting off sunlight for aquatic species. But as these fishermen have discovered, hyacinth also absorbs harmful heavy metals like lead, chromium and iron that might be present in the effluent water. Once cleansed of these chemicals, sewage water consisting mainly of organic waste is let out into the ponds and becomes rich nutrition for fish. So nutritious is this water that fishermen believe that if clean water is substituted, the fish won't breed unless expensive fish food is also introduced. And this is not something fishermen have discovered recently. Instead, it's a process that has evolved by working closely with nature over time. Today, over 8,000 tons of fish are caught each year in the wetlands. The commercial advantages notwithstanding, the most important function the wetlands and vegetable farms accomplish is the dramatic reduction of ground and river water pollution.
ये एकदम काला गंदा पानी लेता है, उसका अंदर में कचरा जितना रहता है सब मछली खा लेता है। मछली खाने के बाद में ये पानी अब पी सकता है, ये पानी यूजेबल हो गया। ये पानी निकलता है, हम लोग आउट कैनल जो है उसमें हम फेंक देते हैं, वो पानी चला जाता है रिवर में जाके वो पानी गिरने के बाद में रिवर पॉल्यूशन नहीं होता है।
And yet, despite the crucial role the wetlands play in recycling, attempts are being made to destroy these water bodies and reclaim the land for development activity. Already, the wetland has been reduced to half its size by land reclamation and today cover an area of only 12,000 acres. The greatest threat comes from developers who want to build a World Trade Center here. Clearance for this project will not only destroy a large part of the remaining wetland, but provide a precedence for further development in the area, which will signal doom.
There are all new development projects. Whenever one reads about new industry coming in, they want to come here. There are hotel chains, the World Trade Center. There are all kinds of plans, film institutes. This is the last open space, and so there's a real run to come to this area.
And this could have disastrous consequences not just for the wetland, but for the entire recycling process that it supports.
पोल्यूशन को तो फर्क से जरूर पड़ेगा, क्या है कि फिशर ये जो पानी जो है काला पानी, कलकत्ता का जो काला पानी है वो कहाँ जाएगा? वो तो रिवर में ही गिरेगा।
These wetlands are the least cost, if not no cost, sewage treatment facility to the city of Calcutta. If the decision makers are interested to get rid of these wetlands, they will have to bring a new sewage treatment plant whose cost would be absolutely explosive.
At present, the case lies with the High Court because a public interest litigation was filed by a voluntary group opposing the sanctioning of over 200 acres for the development of the World Trade Center. An earlier court ruling recognized the importance of these wetlands, and by holding that no development could take place on these 12,000 acres of wetland with the exception of the World Trade Center. But what environmentalists oppose today is the size of the area for the center builders have demanded. The verdict is crucial because wetlands all over India and the world are coming under serious threat and face complete destruction. Sadly, wetlands are perceived by most as wasteland, though they actually constitute entire ecosystems. And it's not just for the sake of conservation that environmentalists are fighting against destruction, but because they are vital for flood control and for recharging groundwater. Tucked away in the vast expanse of the wetland is this temple to the goddess Vanbibi. She is believed to be the protector of nature and all its creatures. And yet, fishermen who often come here to pray feel that even the goddess will not be able to protect their wetlands from development activity. The consequences of destruction will be borne by all Calcutta citizens. Millions of litres of sewage that is now being productively used will flow untreated into the river. Landfills will overflow with garbage, and hundreds of families dependent on this system will be left impoverished and vulnerable. And a unique waste recycling mechanism will be lost. Although many of you may not be aware, water bodies across the country are protected by the law. So if you see a wetland facing destruction, don't turn a blind eye to it. You could motivate a local NGO or write to a local newspaper. Sometimes what you can do is more important than you think. Our next story is a profile on one of the most famous elephants in the world, Tara. Mark Shand, an Englishman, wrote his best-selling travelogue, Travels on My Elephant, after journeying from Orissa to Bihar. Since then, Tara's ownership has changed hands. Sunil Manoharan spent 2 days with her to find out just how easy it is to keep a pet elephant.
Most of your viewers, or a number of them, may have read this famous book by Mark Shand, The Travels on My Elephant. And when he rode the elephant from Orissa through to Sonpur Mela, my wife and my daughter went to Sonpur. They met Mark there with Tara, and he had finished his ride, he was ready to write his book, and he wanted to sell Tara.
Oh, we got Tara, as you know, in Sonpur Fair. I was there because, being on the Indian Board for Wildlife at that time, we were looking to make sure there were no very small elephants being sold. So we asked the mahouts where the Balachi mahout was, and they said they didn't know. And then eventually we saw this Union Jack upside down in a neem tree, and sitting under that tree there was Mark with a line of elephants and Tara. He immediately said, no, I don't want to sell her, take this money away. Would you accept her as a gift?
Right, well, since then she came here. She had a fairly difficult journey because, first of all, she didn't want to get on the truck, the lorry, which was to bring her here. They had to push and push and push. Then, on the road, she had to be tied down with very heavy rope, and they went over one of these steeping policemen, these big bumps, and as she went up in the air, all the ropes broke, and that is why she still has a bit of a sort of scar under her neck here.
Mark found her in not a particularly good condition because she was a kind of beggar elephant, you know, with getting alms from villages. So she was quite thin when he got her, and luckily for him, she was a very good-tempered, docile elephant, because they're not all. Because he spent all that time, 3 months, with her and riding her himself, sleeping with her, feeding her, riding her, and she never gave him a problem except for the water.
Her relationship with Singal, her mahout, they have a very, very good relationship. He's a fine man, a very fine man, and he's kind to her, but he's not only kind, but he's firm. One of the reasons that elephants get out of hand is if they're allowed too much rope, indiscipline sets in. Singal, if he says bite, she has to bite.
Bite it! ये कितना खाना खाता है?
ये 8 किलो खाता है।
क्या क्या खाना देते हो आप बता
चावल देते हैं 4 किलो आटा देते हैं, रोटी बना के उसको खिलाते हैं। उसके बाद आधा किलो गुड़ देते हैं और सिर पे लगा तेल देते हैं ठंडाई के लिए।
How much does it cost to keep her?
Really quite a bit, because in addition to the salaries for her 2 men, feeding her throughout the year, right through the monsoon period, we have to lay in advance thing. So shall we say that she probably, but by goodness she's worth it. I mean, I'm not complaining about it. She probably costs us 6,000 a month. We are very keen that she should get married in this coming monsoon. We're very keen that even though it's a very long, lengthy gestation, that she should have a bacha. And Mark is thrilled. We're making all sorts of advanced plans. He's even got a name for the baby. And we're very, very keen that she should be bred.
From Tara the enduring elephant to the problem of stray dogs. This is not the first story we've done on them, and it won't be our last. For years, city municipalities have tried to find various brutal ways to exterminate them. This has been stopped now, and NGOs, at least in Delhi, have come up with a novel way to help reduce the population of stray dogs. Shanar Joshi reports.
These are just a few members of the canine population of Delhi that exceeds over 1 lakh. But what makes them different from the others is this collar and token neatly clasped around their necks. This is not just another collar. What it really signifies is that this dog will no longer contribute to the population that is already bursting at its seams as it's been sterilized. These ownerless dogs are found abundantly in colonies, parks, markets, anywhere where they can find food and space to live in. Often portrayed as vicious and temperamental, they are time and time again subjected to abominable acts of cruelty.
The NDMC and the MCD had an extremely brutal way of killing the dogs. For almost about 20-25 years, they would pick up the animals with tongs, and very often the tongs themselves would cut into the animal, and they'd be either electrocuted or they'd be clubbed to death.
Fortunately, sterilization offers an alternative to the brutal and inhumane way of killing the animal. Consider this. In the month of January, Tina delivered a litter of 6 pups. 6 months later, she's ready to deliver again. So at the end of 12 months, we will have one mother accounting for 12 pups. But with a little tact, expertise and help from friends, what seems an unending cycle for Tina can be avoided in a simple and painless way.
We have started this program of dog sterilization. It is very helpful for the dogs which are in our colony, and the neighbors who were complaining about these dogs which were creating menace, they've stopped complaining, and the people from other colony, we've told them to come and join hands with us to curb this problem.
Conducted on a daily basis at the shelter, the operation takes approximately 20 minutes. Before being released in the area where they were picked up, they are immunized, collars with tokens attached, and reference numbers given to each dog. Although the shelter sometimes picks up dogs on its own initiative, residents in several areas often come forward themselves to have their dogs operated.
ये कुत्ता आपने अपने आप भेजा है कि वो लोग अपने आप आके ले आए?
हमने अपने आप भेजा है।
तो क्यों भेजा आपने?
क्योंकि वो 6-6 महीने में बच्चे देती थी, इसलिए।
बच्चों के साथ क्या होता था?
बच्चों के साथ कोई मारता था उसको, कोई गाड़ी चढ़ा देता है, इसलिए।
But not all residents are happy to have the dogs back even after the operation.
I think the main opposition we face is from people who insist all animals are a nuisance. There's no way you can get through to such people because their basic premise is this world was created for human beings.
As a result, the shelter is constantly acting on complaints from citizens, some reasonable, others baseless. What most people who lodge complaints fail to realize is that a dog, by virtue of its barking, is an unpaid watchdog who could dissuade a potential thief. There is also a section of people who oppose the very concept of sterilization.
It's a minority, but they do feel like sterilizing is tampering with nature, or even giving vaccinations, because a lot of the anti-rabies vaccines are produced from other animals, and they feel that there's a moral objection to our tampering with nature, interfering with nature, and sterilizing and immunizing.
Yeah, some people feel that the sterilized dogs are more prone to rabies and they just don't adjust well. But rather, it's something very opposite to that. They become more affectionate, docile, and the chances of rabies, I think, has got nothing much to do with it.
Yet, despite the misgivings, it is clear that the sterilization program has been extremely successful in the NDMC area, though the same cannot be said about the MCD zones.
If the MCD will just stick to its promise, at least, of not doing any random killing, they would have taken one step towards assisting the sterilization program. It comes to actually cooperating with their manpower, with their vehicles, with only rounding up the animals, and that they haven't followed through with.
Besides, there's the question of money. An operation can cost anything between 600 and 1,000 rupees, depending on the complications of each individual case. The Animal Welfare Board sanctions only 250 rupees per sterilization. This is an area where the public can help.
But at least if they give us a minimum donation for the actual medicines involved in the operation, it would go a long way to helping a shelter like us increase the facilities we can give back to the community.
Instead, what one finds are familiar headlines such as these.
But wherever there is a problem, there is also a solution. Animal welfare organizations have undertaken a Herculean task to try and stabilize the canine population before it's too late. But it is evident that they need a lot more assistance and a lot more public support to enable them to be truly successful.
The rationale is this: killing doesn't solve your problem. The moment you kill a large number of animals, nature has a way of filling up the vacuum.
Dogs serve several useful purposes and do much more than they are given credit for, whether it's as community watchdogs or as efficient killers of rats or simply as territorial animals that prevent outsiders from feeling too much at home. So, if you feel that pups such as these do not deserve to spend their lives in cages and deserve their own space, here's what you can do. Because whichever way you look at it, the fact that stray dogs lead a miserable life on the streets is inescapable. Emaciated, weak, hungry and cruelly treated, survival is a daily struggle. Sterilization can make that struggle a little easier, and with your help, there is no reason why it can't happen across the country.
capita pocket money of the average US child is $260 a year, which is more than what 30 million people in the world have as their per capita income.